I was grade 11, so going through the last year's cycle test, the one that you'll be writing on Tuesday. Okay, so as you can see here, your quadratic formula is given to you. Okay, question 1, solve for x. So what we need to do first is get it into standard form, and you remember what standard form is. It's this ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. Okay, so I'm just going to distribute the x in, and we get x squared minus 9x plus 14 equals to 0. Now with something like this, you should be able to factorize in your head. It's a trinomial equals to 0, so we get x 7 to minus minus, so x is equal to 7 or x is equal to 2. Okay, next one, again you need to get it into standard form, so take everything to the one side. Now this one is going to be a little bit different because you can see that the factors of 3 are 1 and 3. We can't get to 1 with that. So if you can't factorize it in your head, you're going to have to use the formula, okay, which was given on the front page. So a is equal to 1, b is equal to minus 1, and c is equal to minus 3, okay? And we are going to use the quadratic formula. Okay, I'm just going to substitute all these values in here, and we get minus 1 plus minus 1 squared minus 4, a and c, all over 2a. All right, guys, so what I'm going to do is just simplify this, so that will give me 1 plus or minus. That you can just do on the calculator. Now, guys, I'm not going to actually work out the square root. All I'm going to do is just work out what's underneath that square root. So we've got minus 1 squared minus 4, 1 minus 3, and we get root 13 all over 2. Okay, now follow the instructions on the front of the paper. So it says here, round off to 2 decimal places. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to take the plus and then the minus part. Okay, so we'll get x is equal to, and we've got 1 plus the square root of 13 all over 2, and I round that off to 2 decimal places, so we get there 2.3, and the other one I'm going to check now is the minus root, and we get x is equal to 2 decimal places minus 1.3. All right. Question C. Whenever you have your equations involving a surd like this, get everything that is not with the surd to the one side. Okay, so you can see here that this x or this minus x is messing us around, so take it to the other side, and we get x plus 5 is equal to the square root of 3 minus 3x. Okay, so what we do from there is we square both sides, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a star over here because I'm going to come back to this. So we square both sides. Okay, so this one you're just going to FOIL it, so I'm just going to miss a step, so we get x squared plus 10x plus 25 is equal to 3 minus 3x. Take everything to the one side, x squared plus 13x plus 22 equals 0. All right, so we should be able to factorize this in our head. So x and x, 11 and 2, and it's plus plus. So we get x is equal to minus 11 or x is equal to minus 2. Now, remember with these things, grade 11, whenever you square something like this, or we're dealing with the surd, you must check your answers, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to write out the whole check. I'm just going to check it on the calculator. So with the solution, I'm going to put it into over here just before I squared it, and into there. So if I put minus 11 in there, we get minus 11 plus 5. We get minus 6. Now let's check on this side here. We're going to get the square root of 3 minus 3 minus 11. And we get 6. So you remember this one here gave us minus 6. This one gave us 6. This one is not a solution, okay? Because the left-hand side is not equal to the right-hand side. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to check the minus 2 and put it into the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So if I put minus 2 on the left-hand side here, minus 2 plus 5, we get 3. Now if the right-hand side comes out to be 3, then that can be a solution. So the square root of 3 minus 3 times minus 2, and we get 3. So this is a solution. Okay. Right, moving on to this one over here. You've got to make sure that your highest powers of x are positive, grade 11. So if I have a look here, that one is positive, I'm happy. Over here, the highest power of x is this one, I'm happy. That's just a number, I'm not worried about that. Here's an x, it's positive, I'm happy. That's just a number, don't worry about that. And over here, this x is negative. So that is a bit of an issue. So what I'm going to do, so we've got 2 minus x. This is the same as saying minus x plus 2, okay? Now, if I take out a negative, I'm left with x minus 2. So that is what I'm going to change that to. But now, because of this negative outside here, that's going to change the sign of the outside here. So the negative over here and the negative over here will make this a positive, okay? So we're going to get x over x minus 2 equals 1 over x minus 3 plus 2 over, and it's this x minus 2 bit over there. Okay, now when we're adding and subtracting fractions like this and we've got an equation, we find an LCD and we multiply through by the LCD. So our LCD here will be x minus 2, x minus 3, x minus 2, but we already have an x minus 2 in our LCD, so we don't need to put that down, okay? Also remember, grade 11s, because we're dealing with fractions here and we have that variable in the denominator, we have to list our restrictions. So restrictions. And the restrictions you can just read straight from your LCD. So over here, if I set this one equal to 0, I'll get x is equal to 2. If I set this one equal to 0, I'll get x is equal to 3. Now remember, x cannot be equal to that or that one, because if we do make it for 2, for example, then we're dividing by 2 over here, dividing by 0 and 0 over here, which is not allowed. If we make it 3, you're dividing by 0 over here, which is not allowed. Okay, so that's why the restrictions are there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to multiply everything by our LCD. So if I multiply this first term by our LCD, the x minus 2 will cancel with x minus 2, and we're just left with x multiplied by x minus 3. So we've got x multiplied by x minus 3 equals, if I multiply this one, this term, by our LCD, the x minus 3 will cancel with the x minus 3, and we're left with 1 multiplied by x minus 2. Plus, multiply this one by our LCD, the x minus 2 will cancel with the x minus 2, and we're just left with the x minus 3. So it'll be 2 times x minus 3. Okay, let's distribute to get rid of our brackets. So we get here x squared minus 3x equals, distribute the 1 in, x minus 2, distribute the 2 in, and we get plus 2x minus 6. Take everything to the one side. So we get x squared, so that's minus 3. Take that to that side, becomes minus 1 minus 2. So we get minus 6x. Then our numbers, that and that will give us minus 8. Take it to the other side, we get plus 8 equals 0. Factorize this. X, 4 and 2. Minus, minus, so we get x is equal to 4 or x is equal to 2. Now, we need to check our restrictions. So x cannot be equal to 2. In other words, we cannot have that one. Okay? X equals to 4 we can have that one because it's none of our restrictions. All right. Right, moving on to question E. Now question E is a little bit tricky, but not too bad. So you see, if I had to multiply through by this 2x squared minus x plus 2, I'm going to get over here 4x to the 4. And now you guys don't know how to factorize x to the 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a little cheat thing. What I can see here is I can see that 2x squared minus x is repeating here, 2x squared minus x. Now remember, if anything is repeating like that, use the k method. So let k be equal to 2x squared minus x. So that little part there and that little part will now become k. So we get here k minus 1 plus 15 over k plus 2 equals 5. All right, our LCD is k plus 2. So I'm going to multiply everything by k plus 2. So that there. So we get k plus 2 minus 1 k plus 2 plus, now if I multiply this by k plus 2, the k plus 2's will cancel. I'm left with 15 equals 5 times k plus 2. Let's just distribute. So we get k squared plus 2k minus k minus 2 plus 15 equals 5k plus 10. Take everything to the one side. So we get k squared, and we've got 2 minus 1 minus 5, which is minus 4k. Then our numbers, we've got minus 2 plus 15 minus 10, which is plus 3 equals 0. We can factorize this, so we get k 3, 1 minus minus. So k is equal to 3 or k is equal to 1. Now remember, the question was to solve for x. So what I need to do now is I need to back substitute for our k back up to here where we use the k substitution. So I know that 3 will be equal to 2x squared minus x. And for this one, we will get 1 is equal to 2x squared minus x. I'm just going to take everything to this side, and we get 0 is equal to 2x squared minus x minus 3. And what we can do is we can factorize that now, and we get, in the one bracket, 2x minus 3 and x plus 1. So we get equals 0, so we get x is equal to 3 over 2 or x is equal to minus 1. For this one over here, we would get 0 is equal to 2x squared minus x minus 1. Okay. And if we had to factorize that, we would get, I'll tell you now, so we've got 2 minus 1 minus 1, and we get x minus 1 and 2x plus 1 equals 0. So we get x is equal to 1 or x is equal to minus 1 over 2. And those are all our solutions there. So grade 11's a little bit hectic, but not too bad, just by using the k method. Okay. Right, question 2, solve for x and y in the equations below. So this is simultaneous. So we've got 3x minus y equals 2, and then 3y plus 9x squared equals 4. Now remember, what we need to do here is solve for the easiest variable. So if I solve for the x here, I'm going to get a fraction because I need to divide through by the 3. This one I can solve for. I can just take the y to that side and the 2 to that side, and then I've got a nice easy expression for y. And that is what I'm going to do. So 3x, take this to this side, minus 2 equals y. Call this equation 1, call this one equation 2, and we are going to sub 1 into 2. So in this equation over here, wherever I see a y, I'm going to replace it with 3x minus 2. So we've got 3, replace this y with this 3x minus 2, plus 9x squared equals 4. We can just distribute here, so 9x minus 6 plus 9x squared equals 4. Take everything to this side and then just rearrange from highest power down to the lowest. So we get 9x squared plus 9x minus 10 equals 0. Okay, and now we should be able to factorize that. So we've got 9 minus 10, and we get 3x minus 2, and then 3x plus 5 equals 0. So we get x is equal to 2 over 3, or x is equal to minus 5 over 3. Now that we've got our x values, I can find my y values by substituting into equation 1. So sub into 1. So over here we will get y is equal to 3 times 2 over 3 minus 2. And then for this one over here, we'll get y is equal to 3 times minus 5 over 3 minus 2. All right, so here the 3's will cancel, and then you've got 2 minus 2, so y is equal to 0. Here the 3's will cancel, and you've got minus 5 minus 2 is minus 7. So we've solved for x and y. All right, question 3. It's an inequality, but you treat it just like an equation where you take everything to the one side. So we get 2v squared minus 5v minus 3 less than 0. Okay, you factorize this. Just one sec. So it's 2 minus 5 minus 3. And we get v minus 3. And then 2v plus 1 less than 0. Now, grade 11s, this is where it's different from an equation. Remember, we have to list our critical values instead of actually solving for it. So our one critical value is v is equal to 3. And our other critical value is v is equal to minus a half. Okay, so we draw that up on a number line. So we've got minus a half. And we've got 3. Now remember that this sign means that you've got open dots. If it was an equals there as well, it would be closed dots. Then we go plus, minus, plus. Now it's saying here that whatever's on this side of the inequality, this thing must be less than 0. Something that is less than 0 is negative. So that is where I'm going to look for where it's negative, and it's negative between minus a half and 3. So our solution lies between those two there. So v will be an element from minus a half up to 3. And now they both get round brackets because those are open dots. Okay, if they were closed dots, we would put square brackets. Okay, question 4, solve for x by completing the square. So I'm going to take everything to the one side. So 2x squared plus 16x minus 8 equals 0. Now, before we start completing the square, remember the coefficient of x squared must be 1. Okay, in this case, it's not 1. So we have to divide through by 2. So we get x squared plus 8x minus 4 equals 0. Okay, now guys, don't try and factorize this and then solve, because it's specifically saying by completing the square. If you don't show that method, you're not going to get it right. Okay. Now remember, the next thing that we do is we take half the coefficient of x. So here's our coefficient of x, which is 8. So I take half of 8, which gives us 4. Then I take that 4 and I square it, and I get 16. So we get x squared plus 8x. I add in that 16 over here, plus 16, then minus 4. But because I added in a 16, I must take away the 16, all right, to keep to the original equation, equals 0. And what we've done there is we have created a perfect square. This thing over here is a perfect square. So that green bit will now become a perfect square, and it'll be x and whatever I squared. So it'll be plus 4. That'll give us minus 20 equals 0. Take that to that side and we get x plus 4 squared equals 20. Take the square root and we get x plus 4 is equal to the square root of 20. Now remember, whenever you take the square root, it is always plus or minus. Okay, so x is equal to minus 4 plus or minus the square root of 20. Now, I'm actually going to work this out on the calculator, and remember we need to round off to 2 decimal places. So we'll have minus 4 plus root 20, and to 2 decimals we'll get x is equal to 0.47, or x is equal to, now I'm going to do the minus bit, and to 2 decimals we'll get minus 8.47. Okay. Okay, question 5. Discuss the roots of 9m squared plus 12m plus 4. Now remember that this is delta. So we get b squared minus 4ac. And that comes from, you know, your standard form for your quadratic. Ax squared plus bx plus c. So what we can get there is from here, our a, from this one here, our a is equal to 9, our b is equal to 12, and our c is equal to 4. So I'm just going to plug that into our nature of roots formula, and then we can discuss it. Okay, so we get delta is equal to, our b is 12, minus 4, our a is 9, and our c value is 4. Okay, so now we can just put that on the calculator and we can see what we get there. So 12 squared minus 4 times 9 times 4, and we get 0. Now, grade 11s, you remember I gave you that little thing with the little tree on your nature of roots. I want you to use that to when you have to describe nature of roots. Okay, I will post it up on your WhatsApp group again just to remind you. So what you're going to look for now is when delta is equal to 0. So the first one says if it's less than 0 or greater or equal to 0. So this is definitely greater or equal to 0. So therefore the roots are real. Then you're looking for, or the next part of the branch says if delta is greater than 0 or delta is equal to 0. Well, this is definitely not greater than 0. It's equal to 0. So therefore it is equal roots. And that is it. So you just basically follow the little tree thing, looking for wherever there's a 0, okay? Or if it comes out to be a negative number, or if it comes out to be a perfect square. Just follow your little tree and then you can describe it, okay? Again, grade 11s, I will post it on the group, all right? Question 6. So this is a problem-solving type question, all right? So if we have a look here, it says here, if a plus b is equal to minus 8. So we know that we have this. And they've told us that ab is equal to 9. We need to calculate the value of a squared plus b squared. Okay, so these are the only 2 bits of information that we can work with. All right. So how am I going to get an a squared b squared? The only way I would get that is if I square this side. all right? But you remember with an equation, if you do one thing to this side, you must do it to the other side. So because I squared this side, I must square that side. Okay, so this becomes FOIL. Remember, you've got two brackets. It's A plus B, A plus B. So I'm just going to do first outer inner last, and we get A squared plus 2AB plus B squared equals 64. Okay, now we know what AB is, this bit over here. They told us that AB is equal to 9. So we get here A squared plus 2 times 9 plus B squared equals 64. So we get A squared plus 18 plus B squared equals 64. Now, if I take this to the side, it becomes a minus, and we get A squared plus B squared is equal to 46. So you see, guys, it's not too bad, these problem-solving type questions. Always look at it logically and then try and just build up from there. Okay? Then, question 7. Okay. A man undertakes a journey of 630 kilometers at a certain speed. Should he increase his speed by 20 kilometers per hour, he will reach his destination 2 hours earlier. Calculate his original speed. So we've got the old speed, and then we've got the new speed. Okay, so this is a speed, distance, time problem. So for the old one, a man undertakes a journey at a certain speed. So what is his speed? X. What is his distance? 630. And then you remember, guys, your little triangle. Okay, so speed is equal to distance over time. So time will be equal to distance over speed. So this will be 630 over X. Then the new one is his speed is increased by 20. So X plus 20. The distance hasn't changed. It's still 630. His time here will now be 630 over X plus 20. Then we've got this little bit over here where it says he'll reach his destination 2 hours earlier. That is the link between these two. So if I take the old time, that's the old time, and that will be equal to our new time, and it will be plus 2 because our new time will be quicker. And if we add 2 hours onto it, it'll be equal to our old time because he gets there 2 hours earlier. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is just multiply through by the LCD, and we get X plus 20. So if I multiply this by our LCD, the X's will cancel, and you're left with 630 multiplied by X plus 20 equals, multiply this by LCD, X plus 20s will cancel, and you're just left with 630X. And then over here, you've just left with plus 2X, X plus 20. Okay, so let's distribute. So if I distribute this in here, we get 630X plus 12,600 equals 630X. Over here, this is 2X. So then I'm going to take that 2X and distribute that in, and we get plus 2X squared plus 40X. Take everything to the one side, and we get minus 2X squared minus 40X plus 12,600 equals 0. I'm going to divide through by minus 2, and we get X squared plus 20X minus 6,300 equals 0. I can factorize this, and we get X minus 70, X plus 90, and then we can solve. So X is equal to 70, or X is equal to minus 90. Now remember what we've done here. X was a speed, so this is not applicable. Okay, so the original speed was just 70. All right, grade 11s. So that was the cycle from last year. and I hope it helped. Good luck with the studies, guys.